Good evening and welcome to the Evening News for Thursday, January 15, 2015. I'm Petty Santos. Thank you for joining us. Making your headlines this evening, Guyana not in breach of Commonwealth Charter. British High Commissioner's remarks disrespectful. Passengers stranded after Essequibo ferry vessel hits sandbank. Gang-raped teen recuperating slowly. Nagamootoo dodges questions on FUCOP funding. And prison officer jailed for sneaking cigarettes into prison. And now for the news in detail. The Foreign Affairs Ministry, in a statement to the media today, affirmed that Guyana was not in breach of the Commonwealth Charter as it exposed the misinformation in the British ambassador's statements here. The details in this report.
The Foreign Affairs Ministry has said that recent statements made by the British High Commissioner Andrew Eyre are at best misleading. Eyre on Monday had warned that Guyana was moving towards a country of concern and it was in breach of the Commonwealth Charter. But the release from the ministry said that after contact was made to the Commonwealth General Secretary, it was confirmed that there were no Commonwealth discussion on Guyana's state of affairs. The Secretary General also confirmed that there has been no discussion about the situation in Guyana with the British government or its High Commissioner in Georgetown or by any other Commonwealth body for that matter. The release said that as such there has been no conclusion by the Commonwealth that Guyana is in breach of the Commonwealth Charter. Only this week, Foreign Affairs Minister Caroline Rodrigues-Burkett had cause to express concern over some statements made by the ambassador about the president's decision to prorogue Parliament. She made it clear that Guyana was independent and did not have an obligation to follow any advice given by the British with respect to its internal affairs. In fact, the minister did not even glorify the High Commissioner with a deserving response via the established diplomatic route, but chose instead to make a normal statement via her Facebook page. Reporting for the Evening News, Gomati Gangadin.
Meanwhile, government has officially spoken out through Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon on the statement by outgoing British High Commissioner Andrew Eyre, dubbing it disrespectful. Here is more from Alexis Rodney.
At his post-cabinet press briefing earlier today, Luncheon said government patiently awaits the departure of the British High Commissioner, who in a hail of threat to government warned that the continued suspension of the National Assembly could cost Guyana its support to developmental projects by Commonwealth. Luncheon said the ambassador attempted to portray that government's prorogation of Parliament was unconstitutional.
High Commissioner Eyre is terribly dishonorable, knowingly misdepicting prorogation in Guyana as a constitutional crime severe enough to utter that S-word, sanctions.
The British ambassador on Monday had lashed out at government a few days after the United Kingdom's Minister of Foreign Affairs Tobias Ellwood had urged an early resumption of Parliament. Luncheon said government was hurt that Britain will go to such lengths with its threats of sanctions.
Sinisterly and conspiratorially, he revealed the EU and the UK's handiwork in the recent EU's dishonoring of its agreement with the government of Guyana on budget support. Folly, yes, but his attempts to damage Guyana's credibility and its economic prospects considered by Cabinet to be unpardonable.
The Cabinet Secretary described as irksome the apparent trend by Western diplomats to make outlandish remarks against government a short while before the end of their tenure. Luncheon said the British High Commissioner has served Guyana for the past 3 years. For the Evening News, Alexis Rodney.
The Essequibo Ferry, the MV Sabanto, which usually plies the Region 2 Pomeroon Supanam and Region 3 Essequibo Islands West Demerara route, was grounded in the vicinity of Hog Island after hitting a sandbank. The vessel was on its way to Supanam on Wednesday evening when the incident occurred. The abrupt halt resulted in several passengers being stranded. The ferry was said to be 40 minutes away from the Supanam stelling. Reports indicate that the boat landed on an island of sand due to low tide. Persons who went to purchase tickets on Thursday morning were told that no boat was available and that the Transport and Harbours officers said they were unaware when operations will be back to normal. Persons were forced to hurry to Supanam to access the speedboat service. In this report, you will hear that an 18-year-old young man who was allegedly gang raped by several men, including his best friend on All Year's Night at Vredenhoop, West Coast, Demerara, is recuperating. Here are the details in this report.
The mother of the West Demerara teenager told the Evening News that her son's condition had improved a bit. However, she noted that the young man is still not talking. The 18-year-old alleged that after attending an All Year's Night party hosted by his best friend, he was taken by his best friend and several others to the jetty at Vredenhoop, where he was gang raped. The incident has left him so traumatized that he has lost his voice. According to the teen's mother, the young man has opened his eyes and is looking at persons around him, but can hardly move his body parts. The teen is currently being fed liquids through tubes that are hooked up to his nose and ran into his stomach. Meanwhile, Senior Superintendent Ian Amsterdam stated that while he no longer has jurisdiction on the case, he noted that statements were obtained from the person who hosted the party on the night in question and 2 other persons. Amsterdam pointed out that the police are awaiting the full recovery of the young man for them to get his account of what transpired that night, since all they have been told are hearsay evidence. The main suspect in this rape allegation was previously arrested but had to be released on bail after the 72 hours detention period was up. Reporting for the Evening News, Vanu Manikchan.
The Alliance for Change at a press conference today refused to confirm or deny what Professor Samad has said. Here are the details in this report.
AFC Vice Chairman Moses Nagamutu made it clear this afternoon that the party will not be responding to statements made by Samad. According to Nagamutu, he first has to seek clarity on what was said and if it was delivered in the right context.
I am not going to respond to you until we can verify what has been said and how and in what context what has been reported was said, because that particular newspaper that you refer to, I have read some very obscene articles, what appeared to be articles or being passed off as articles.
When pressed for more information on the issue with specific reference to the proposed talks, again there was no answer. However, AFC's General Secretary David Patterson had this to say.
This newspaper quotes a well-informed AFC supporter. So I can tell you now publicly, if you contact that well-informed supporter, he will give you every single information. You quote him every week that you ask, every single question you have. He has all the details.
Last Friday, APNU leader David Granger said that the prospects for talks between the AFC and APNU were good. Specific details on the way forward for the proposed coalition will be unveiled after the party meets for its shadow cabinet engagement. He could not reveal the details of the AFC's tabled non-disclosure agreement, which was presented for review and signature by the APNU. Davina Samaru for the Evening News.
Stay with us. You're watching the Evening News. Welcome back. Attorney General and Legal Affairs Minister Anil Nandlal has dismissed concerns raised by the lawyer representing the People's National Congress, Basil Williams, over the state of affairs of the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry. Here is more from Alexis Rodney.
Williams, speaking to the Evening News on Wednesday, had expressed concerns over the resumption of the commission during a time when political parties are at the hub of their election campaigns. The investigation, which seeks to ascertain who was responsible for the death of historian Dr. Walter Anthony Rodney, will go into its 7th session in January 26. Williams told the Evening News that the PNC had expressed concern when it received notice from the Secretariat that a COI will be commencing on January 26. He said the 3-member commission had already expressed some reservation about carrying out the investigation during the political atmosphere that will prevail. But Attorney General Anil Nandlal told this newscast that he sees no connection between elections and the investigations, since according to him, the commission has nothing to do with politics. He said it is simply an inquiry into what has been considered a colossal tragedy, noting that it was long overdue. He said while commissioners have indeed expressed some amount of concern about the commission sitting during the elections, the country is not yet at that stage. Concerns were also raised about further funding for the commission, since there have been talks that the initial multi-million-dollar allocation approved by the National Assembly during the budget presentation last year has almost dried up. Williams said the PNC has been calling for an account of the monies spent thus far, but has never gotten down to that, particularly because of the prorogation of Parliament. This question was thrown to Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Lenchen. He said that from all indication, the Commission is at a satisfactory position on every level. This includes finance and the Commissioner's presence during the election period.
Satisfaction by the administration of the commission was providing to Cabinet with the financials, the logistics, and other arrangements that would allow the chair of the Dr. Walter Rodney Commission in Paris to be implemented.
For the Evening News, Alexis Rodney.
Sean Paul of Lot Y, Ben Street, Workinrust, was sentenced to 6 months imprisonment after accepting taking prohibited items into the prisons. The defendant, who was a prison officer, appeared before Chief Magistrate Priya Sunarayan Bihari at the Georgetown Magistrates Courts. It is alleged that on January 12 at the Georgetown prison, he had in his possession 30 grams of cannabis for the purpose of trafficking. The other allegation read that on the same day he entered 8 packets of Bristol cigarettes and 1 digital SIM card into the prison. The unrepresented man pled not guilty to the first charge but accepted the second allegation. However, he admitted to only having 2 packets of cigarettes as opposed to 8 packets that the charge stated. He was jailed for 6 months for taking the cigarettes into the prison. He was also remanded for trafficking the narcotic charge. Alliance for Change Vice Chairman Moses Nagamoto has outrightly refused to state whether or not his party is funding a united committee for opposition presidency, FUCOP. The details in this report.
Today, Nagamoto steered clear of answering any questions on whether the AFC had received funds from FUCOP. After extensive investigation by this media entity, it is believed that the publisher of Kaitro News, Glenn Lal, had founded this organization to provide funding to opposition parties. APNU has already denied that it received funding from either Lal or FUCOP, but Nagamoto was especially perturbed by the revelations in the investigative report. He said that he was not morally bound to provide any answers to this newscast.
And went on in another comment that they say was satirical and repeated it, that another person associated with criticisms against the government had formed an organization called Fuck Up. You probably saw that, FUCOP, an acronym that they associate with an organization to raise funds for some committee of the president, electing a new president. When you begin to sink that low, to use slimy language as part of your political diction, then I don't have a moral responsibility to respond to anything you say in that newspaper.
Several businessmen had said that they were forced by Lal to join FUCAP. This is reminiscent of the Committee to Re-elect the President, CREEP, formed in 1990 by businessmen like C.N. Sharma. They had pumped millions for the re-election of then-President Desmond Hoyt. The businessmen said that Lal made them an offer they could not refuse, since he had made up stories and snitched on them previously to the U.S. consulate, as revealed by WikiLeaks. Reporting for the Evening News, Gumati Gangadin.
Labour Minister Dr. Nanda Gopal noted that despite the prevalent cases of child labour in Guyana, the ministry never discovered any incidents where they conducted their inspections last year. Here is more in this report.
We haven't been able, in all our inspections, to discover because I think the message is out there that we are very serious about that. We have not found any case of child labour based on these inspections.
While the ministry did not succeed in finding cases of child labour last year, the minister reflected on an incident on the highway several years ago where they succeeded in eliminating child labour.
We found a number of young children were employed in agricultural farms. They weren't going to school, and when we questioned them, that was several years ago, we were told a horrific story about they can't make it to school because of the distance and where the schools are located. And the government with the ILO, some 3 years back, entered into an agreement where we were providing transportation for the school children and we were providing a hot meal for them. And whereas you used to have 40 and 50% attendance, the moment we introduced that program, we found that nearly 80%, 90%, and it has reached almost 100% attendance.
Moreover, only recently it was reported that child labour is prevalent in the lower Pomeroon area. Records show that there has been an increase in the number of school dropouts, and children can often be seen working on farms and not attending schools. Reporting for the Evening News, Davina Samaru.
The United Nations Development Programme, the UNDP, on Tuesday handed over 3 Honda all-terrain vehicles, ATVs, to the Ghana Elections Commission to assist the Secretariat with its work at its various interior locations in Guyana. Speaking at the simple handing over ceremony in GCOM's compound, representatives from the UNDP, Mr. Trevor Ben, while handing over the keys to the ATVs to GCOM's Chief Elections Officer, Mr. Keith Lowenfield, expressed the UNDP's commitment to supporting a transparent electoral process. Mr. Ben urged GCOM to utilize the ATVs to better serve the needs of the Guyanese people, as preparations are being made continuously by GCOM for eminent elections in 2015. GCOM's Chief Elections Officer, Mr. Keith Lowenfield, upon receiving the keys of the 3 ATVs, thanked the UNDP for this timely gesture of support and promised to utilize these vehicles for the purpose for which they were intended. While the developed world's attitude has changed about discussing one's sexualities, there seems to be a taboo on this incredibly important subject in this country, which could be the contributing factor to the high rates of recorded teenage pregnancies. Here's more in this report.
According to the director of the GRPA, Patricia Shiratan Bishnot, there is no comprehensive approach to discussions surrounding sexual matters, and youths are often unequipped with the knowledge and information needed to make safe and wise decisions. She pointed out that we live in a highly sexualized culture, and it is time for Guyanese to stop treating sex as an uncomfortable conversational topic, especially with children. Youth Coordinator of the GRPA, Norwell Hines, reiterated by pointing out that parents usually tell their children not to have sex until marriage, and such concludes the discussion. He said young people often believe several myths about sex, which causes them to engage in unsafe sexual practices. GRPA, in their fight against teenage pregnancy, calls on all parents and guardians to engage their children in comprehensive sexual discussions and to explore all possibilities as it relates to sex. Only last year, the Georgetown Public Hospital alone recorded 1,332 teenagers between the ages of 14 to 19 giving birth, while in 2013, Guyana was ranked the second country in the region with the highest rates of teenage pregnancy. Davina Samaru for the Evening News.
Stay with us. More of the Evening News after these messages. If you've just joined us, you're watching the Evening News. The doors of the National Cultural Centre will be opened on Saturday for the staging of Pandora's Box, the National School of Theatre Arts and Drama's first play since it was launched in 2013. At a recent press conference, the School of Theatre Arts and Drama 24 Best Graduating Student Esther Hamner explained that Pandora's Box will be performed by the graduating class of 2014. Hamner said it is a combination of 5 plays which draw on the diversity of emotions. The 5 plays will overlap and will be guided by a narrator. The young actress said that the portrayal of emotions was a challenge for the young actors initially, but they geared for the play on Saturday. Pandora's Box was produced by actor and director Ron Robinson and the NSRAD's Director of Studies, Al Crichton. In this Royd and James report, you will hear that the National Association for Agricultural, Commercial and Industrial Employees, NACI, is supporting the protest action by the Ghana Geology and Mines Commission. Here is more from this report.
General Secretary of the National Association of Agricultural, Commercial and Industrial Employees, Kenneth Joseph, today dismissed statements made by Chief Labour Occupational and Safety Officer Charles Ogle that the current GGMC protest action is illegal and should be dismissed. Workers attached to the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission are on their 9th day of protest action for a salary increase which was promised to them since last year. On Tuesday, Ogle in a statement said that the current protest actions by the GGMC workers may not be in accord with known and acceptable principles of good labor management relations. But today, NACI in a statement said that it is a sad affair and very serious when the trade unions here observe the denial of important workers' rights in silence. According to the General Secretary of the organization, Kenneth Joseph, it is important for Mr. Ogle to note that there are legal and illegal strikes according to the legal luminaries. Joseph said the GGMC strike, however, is not defined as illegal because it is one of the attempts by workers to pressure the employers to concede to their demand for improvement in wages, benefit and work rules. The NACI said too it supports the workers who are still struggling for a better life. Royd and James reporting for the Evening News.
41-year-old Raymond Clark was remanded to prison after being arraigned on a trafficking in narcotics charge when he appeared before Chief Magistrate Priest Sinoran Bihari. The charge alleged that on January 15 at Duncan Street, Georgetown, he had in his possession 26 grams of cannabis for the purpose of trafficking, to which he denied. Bail was objected to by the prosecution under the grounds of the nature, gravity and prevalence of the offence and the quantity of the drug. Bail was refused and the matter will be heard on February 19. Stay with us. Your regional and international news are next. Welcome back and now for a look at some news in your region. Regionally, Cuba says it will not be offering wireless services in its second largest city, Santiago de Cuba, as previously reported. State-run telecommunications provider Estexa clarified that a new intranet Wi-Fi service was being installed but would only be available at selected official sites, such as the recreational center and a network for youth cyber clubs. This move comes as part of plans to widen citizens' access to the World Wide Web and more liberal forms of communication. But Cuba is maintaining that it will continue to monitor citizens' access to these services to ensure that it is within a communist policy and ideology. And internationally, Pope Francis has defended freedom of expression following last week's attack on French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo, but also stressed its limits. The pontiff says religion has to be treated with respect so that people's faiths are not insulted or ridiculed. To illustrate his point, he told journalists that his assistant could expect a punch if he cursed his mother. The remarks made as funerals were held for 4 people killed in the attacks by militant Islamists. Here now are your bridge reports. The Demerara Harbour Bridge is expected to be closed at 1400 hours on Friday, January 16 for a period of 1.5 hours. And the Berbice River Bridge is expected to be closed at 1300 hours on Friday, January 16 for a period of 1.5 hours. Stay with us. Sport is next.
presents a few more challenges. Keeping your business running shouldn't be one of them. That's why we work every day towards ensuring your overall satisfaction. With over 100 skilled technicians and engineers equipped with the tools and skills to help you do more. With the largest parts inventory in Guyana, over 10,000 line items readily available. Driven by your success is not just a set of words to us. It is a code by which we live. That is why we are proud to say that we are Victory!
Welcome back, and now for a look at your headlines in sport. Former coach talks up six heads chances against Mullings. The West Indies and South Africa square off in first ODI tomorrow. Banks Bear Cup, top performers rewarded, and Guinness Street Football spreads to other zones. This segment of sport is sponsored by Macorp.
Every day presents a few more challenges. Keeping your business running shouldn't be one of them. That's why we work every day towards ensuring your overall satisfaction. With over 100 skilled technicians and engineers equipped with the tools and skills to help you do more. With the largest parts inventory in Guyana, over 10,000 line items readily available. Driven by your success is not just a set of words to us. It is a code by which we live. That is why we are proud to say that we are Victory!
Fresh off their 2-1 series win of the T20s, the West Indies would look to carry the momentum over to the ODI series against South Africa, when the first of 5 games is played tomorrow in Durban. With the series being the final one for both teams ahead of next month's World Cup, expectations are high about a closely fought series as preparations wind down for a mega event in Australia and New Zealand. The series will also provide a stern test for Jason Holder and his first stint as the West Indies captain, leading a team missing the likes of all-rounder Dwayne Bravo and Kieran Pollard. South Africa have been bolstered by the return of their premier players A.B. de Villiers, Hassim Amla, Dale Steyn and Morn Morkel, and will start the series as favourites. The match will start at 7:30 Guyana time. Former coach of Andrew Sixhead Lewis, George Oprek, has expressed confidence in the former world champion's ability to defeat Jamaican Sakima Mullings on the Caribbean Collision boxing card next month. Here is more from Afanash Ramzan.
Lewis and Mullings are set to headline the card, which will now be held at the Cliff Anderson Sports Hall after it was initially slated for Kingston, Jamaica. Mullings requested a fight to be held in Guyana as he is out to prove that he can defeat Lewis, the former world champion, in his own backyard. At 44, Lewis is at the twilight of his career, while Mullings at 32 is a potential world champion. However, the experienced Oprek, who has previously worked with Lewis, believes age would not be a factor in the outcome.
That won't affect him in any way because I can remember training in those years, and I used to train harder than a lot of young men and beat a lot of younger men than myself. So I think Sixhead got a very good chance of beating Mullins. He's a more advanced boxer, technically, right? And Mullins is young, he might be strong, but boxing is a very, very serious game, and it is a very tricky game. Huh?
Oprek argued that Lewis would be very hard to hit given his supreme boxing technique, adding that the main aim of the coaches working with the former world champion is to get Sixheads back in the type of condition that prevailed during his prime.
They don't have to teach Sixhead to box now. Sixhead already knows the box well. You see, they have to get him back in condition so that he can, move as he uses to, punch as he uses to, and so on, right? He'll be able to take a punch like he used to and so on, right? So he'd be right back there. And I think he would give Mullins a boxing lesson. I don't know much about him knocking out Mullins, right? But I know he would make him look real bad in the ring.
OPEC based his analysis on the fact that Lewis was very rarely out of the gym, despite being inactive since October 2008 when he suffered a loss to compatriot Howard Eastman.
Six said is a man don't stay out of the gym. If Six said is away for 2 weeks or a week or so, you'll find he would come back in the gym and he would do some work in the gym. He would work out with the youths. He maintain a certain program, right? He's maintain a keep fit program. He would spar, he would work out and everything just like before. So it's only a stamina. Let's bring back the strength and the stamina, and he's there.
Lewis, who turned 44 on December 14 last, has a record of 30 fights, 23 wins, 20 by way of knockout, with 4 losses and 2 drawn encounters. After 18 fights, Mullings has an enviable record of 17 wins, with 12 knockouts and 1 defeat. Of point to note, Mullings has never lost to a Guyanese fighter, defeating Winston Pompey, Howard Eastman, Revlon Lake and Derek Richmond within the last 3 years.
With the aim of deriving the quota of teams to contest the national playoff later this year, the Guinness Greatest in the Streets football zonal tournaments will resume on January 24. This is according to Guinness brand manager Lee Baptiste. Here is more from Avinash Ramzan.
Speaking to this newscast during a telephone interview today, Baptiste confirmed that the West Coast Demerara leg of the tournament is slated to kick off on January 24. A total of 16 teams will vie for top honours over 6 nights of rivalry at various venues across the West Demerara corridor. This will be followed by zonal competitions for teams on the east coast of Demerara and Berbice during February and March. The Linden leg will also be contested this year, culminating during the Tongue Week celebrations. The Georgetown leg was contested late last year, with North Rhineville beating Festival City Warriors in the final. The top teams from each of the 5 zones will earn the right to contest the national playoff set for early May, with a dozen teams set to compete for top honours. The champion team will earn the distinction of being Guyana's representative at the Guinness Caribbean Street Challenge, which is fixed for Trinidad and Tobago in June. The Guinness Street Football Competition, which is being sponsored by Banks DIH Limited and coordinated by the Petra organisation, has been a hit with patrons, attracting massive crowds at the numerous venues across the country.
And Lloyd Camden was on Wednesday evening re-elected unopposed as president of the Albion Community Centre Cricket Club when the entity held its annual general meeting at the Albion Community Centre Main Hall. Kendall will serve for his 13th consecutive term and will have Imtiaz Bacchus as his vice president. Current Human Resources Manager of Gaisuko Albion Estate, Vimen Walter, returned as secretary, while Danraj Singh Budu will serve as treasurer. Frederick Hassan is the Assistant Secretary Treasurer. The 5 committee members are Tularam Singh, Muniram Lalbahari, Romeo Singh, Totaram Haribachan, and Aslim Amrirali. Top performers at the recently concluded Georgetown Football Association's Banks Beer Cup were today presented with their prizes at Banks' DIH location at Thirst Park. Here is more from Avinash Ramzan.
At a simple presentation ceremony in the boardroom of Banks DIH Limited, the top teams and individuals were rewarded for their performances during the tournament. Alpha United copped the top prize after defeating the Guyana Defence Force 3-0 in the final, while Pile got the better of Western Tigers in the 3rd place playoff.
Congratulations to Alpha United and the GDF. Better luck for next year's tournament, as well as Pile and Western Tigers. We look forward to supporting this tournament, and I trust that that all teams will work hard to create that competitive spirit or edge.
Chuhen also pointed out that the tournament was a successful one, adding that Banks DIH Limited will continue to invest in not just football, but sport in general.
This year's tournament, as we all know, it was 16 teams that participated. But nevertheless, you still have that competitive spirit, as you would have witnessed with the level of play that was demonstrated by all teams that participated.
The year-end tournament is a premier event hosted by the Georgetown Football Association, led by Vernon Burnett.
And that has brought us to the end of the evening news for Thursday, January 15, 2015. Do remember to get a copy of tomorrow's edition of the Guyana Times newspaper for the details of these stories and other news. I'm Petty Santos. Thank you for joining us.